It's time to smash the numbers. Hello, and welcome. This is Farris Khan. We are going to do volume 2 of Smash the Numbers. And for this video, we are going to talk about defense. But first, if you need to get a hold of me, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Bobblehead Guru. I also have a YouTube channel just under my name, Farris Khan. So would love to connect with you on any of those platforms. Today, the analysis that I did is I actually created a new metric. This metric I'm calling FK score, just my initials. If you can come up with something better, I'd appreciate it in terms of a metric to use or a name for the metric. I do some analysis and I'm going to go into this in detail of the players that have left on defense. We're going to talk specifically about Rod Moore and how Quentin Johnson was really great to have Quentin Johnson come back when just before Rod Moore had his big injury. And yeah, thoughts go out to Rod Moore. That is a really tough break for him. Hope he ends up coming back strong and hope he ends up in the NFL. We would all love to see that happen. I'm also going to talk about the defense in general, what our expectations should be for 2024 relative to 2023. And I'll just kind of give you my overall take. I would love to get some of your feedback just on my analysis, on my scoring, on my weighting. We are going to go somewhat deep in the numbers, but it shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to show you a few Excel spreadsheets, which I put on PowerPoint, and kind of state my case for why the scoring should be the way it is, and then use those numbers to basically say what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of Michigan when it comes to specific positions on defense. All right, let's go ahead and get into the numbers. And we will start with how big of a loss is Rod Moore? I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. The weakest link of the defense, the strength, and how close can we come to matching 2023 production? Well, I started off by looking at Our Lads. So this is a website that really goes into detail on depth charts, and usually they have the latest and greatest, but in this case, it did not capture the fact that Rod Moore is injured. So I started with this. I really like the site because you've got all of the positions and you have the first stringers as they are known now. You also have the backups in column 2, third stringers, column 3, and then this column on the right is actually showing players who have left from 2023. This is color-coded. If they are green, they are considered top players. Chris Jenkins, Junior Colson, Mike Sanastril. So first and second round picks is the expectation with these players. There is nothing that's in red, which would be third and fourth round picks. Aqua is for fifth and sixth round, and we do have several players, 1, 2, 3, 4 players in that category. And then we have one player who is round 7 or priority free agent. So each of these categories, I kind of go into a little bit of a scoring mechanism, and I explain that right now. All right, so on the left is what I've come up with. I'm calling it FK score because I couldn't really think of a better metric for this. I would love in the comments if you could tell me if there's some way that we can crowdsource the name for this as well as kind of the methodology. So here's the methodology. I take the starters and I take the number of games they appeared in 2023. I give them 1 point for each of those games. Then I've used sort of hockey star rules here. So I'm picking 3 stars. And I've picked Kenneth Grant, I've picked Mason Graham, and I've picked Will Johnson as the 3 stars of the Michigan defense. For each of those 3 stars, I'm giving 5 bonus points. All right, so we're taking the number of games appearances, plus, in the case of those 3 players, 5 bonus points. Then I'm adding the second stringers. You see the number of games that they have appeared in. I'm adding those, but I'm adding them with a weight of 1/2. So I'm multiplying it by a half, basically by 0.5. So full credit if you're a starter, half credit if you're second string in terms of the number of games started. And then on the right, what I'm doing here is all those players I described that were leaving, I'm giving them a -20 if they are expected to be a high pick. I'm giving them a -15 if it's a mid pick. Actually, there were 0 players that were -15, but I'm going to put Rod Moore in that category. So I'm going to say that if he had gone to the draft, he would have been a mid pick. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know. If you think he would have been a high pick or a lower pick, let me know. But for now, I'm saying he'd be a mid pick. And then all of the players who were expected to be kind of later in the draft, I put a -10 for those players. So again, sort of going over my methodology, 2023 game appearances for the starters, plus that star bonus for the top 3 players, plus a half of the backup games appearances for each of the backups. And then you've got that loss, subtract off that loss number that I have on the right column here. And I used our lads for the roster depth, but I also used MGO Blue to, kind of verify the game appearances in 2023. All right. Now, I do want to point out, if we kind of look a little bit at sort of Quentin Johnson here, and because Quentin Johnson replaced Rod Moore, and for now I'm putting Quentin Johnson in this slot, is he playing a little out of position? I don't know. You tell me. We'll see over time. But for now, I'm putting him in as a starter. Because I did that, you see the score here. The FK score can be a positive or a negative, but it is actually slightly positive. So that's good news. Well, the weakest link is Jaden McBurrows replacing Mike Sanastrill, and also Jayshawn Barnum, who is a transfer replacing Junior Colson. So -6 there, and Jaden McBurrows replacing Sanastrill, -7.5 there. The strength is Will Johnson at a +25.5 and Makari Page at a +18.5. So those 2 positions, based on this analysis, this numerical analysis, those are the 2 strongest positions. And then I just went over the weakest positions. Now, if Quentin Johnson were not there, if he did not, kind of say that he was going to leave, but then decide to come back, what would it have looked like? Well, that 5.5 actually would have been flipped from a positive to a negative. It would have been flipped to a -4. Zeke Berry would be the slot that I'm putting Zeke Berry into, and replacing Rod Moore, that would have pushed it down to a -4. So having that one player come back really counterpoise the big negative of losing Rod Moore. Should Michigan still go into the portal and try to get help here? Yes, but it is not truly actually even the weakest link on the team on defense. Now, I'm just going to spend a minute on offense. I'm going to do another video on offense, but it would be great if you had any feedback here before I complete that analysis. The highest score here is Colston Loveland / Max Bredesen. And the way our lads does it, they have a fullback and H-back, which is kind of tight end-ish, blocking back-ish. So, maybe a 2 tight end set as well. So those are clearly the strengths. So the tight end position. The weakest link is the huge shoes to fill of JJ McCarthy. Alex Orges, who they are saying is going to be quarterback one. We'll see what ends up happening. I think, I have another video on that, so please take a look at that. But where I kind of propose the idea of that potentially a 2-quarterback system could work between Alex Orges and Jaden Denegal. The other slight negative here is Tyler Morris. I'll go into this in much more detail in a different video. Maybe I should also talk about the star bonuses, though, real quick. So Samaj Morgan, Colston Loveland, Donovan Edwards. Those are my three stars on offense for 2024. You let me know if you would choose differently. That would kind of help my analysis as well. Also, I went into Sports Reference and I looked in detail. So first of all, what we're looking at here is all the players. I have sorted them by tackles. So I don't want to just look at whether they made an appearance. Maybe they made an appearance for one set of downs or a few downs, whatever, something to that effect. Instead, I want at least the counting stats that we can reasonably say that, hey, this player was in the middle of a lot of plays. Let's try to identify what those are. I also included Jason Barnum here at the bottom, so you can see his statistics as well. So if we look at the top 5, and I sorted this by tackles, we could sort it by, sacks or, some other counting statistic. But for now, tackles, out of the top 5, only 2 are returning. So Ernest Hausman and Makari Page. And then out of the top 10, we're losing 5, but 5 are coming back. Now, obviously we can look at it at tackles, but we can also look at it like sacks, for example, and you see Josiah Stewart at a 5.5 sack number. So, maybe I missed something there. Maybe actually because there's so much strength that Josiah Stewart should also be put in there, as one of the 3 stars on my top 3 stars of the on the defense. Okay. Now let's look at the defense overall. So if we look at the defense overall, I see Michigan, or if we look at Michigan's numbers from 2023, compare it to Alabama and OSU. I did this very same analysis when I was doing that 2-quarterback system, or this very same chart, but I'm kind of looking at a different row of the analysis. So what we're talking about here is Michigan, 247 yards of offense. First downs allowed, 13.3 for the game, and this is on average for 2023. Alabama is higher at 316 and 16.3 first downs allowed. And then you've got OSU at 265 and 15.6 first downs allowed. Let me know what you think of those numbers. I think, Alabama, quote unquote, plays in a tougher conference, but Michigan overall had to play in the championship game too. So, I think the numbers, if you kind of look at them this way, if Michigan had to play Texas in the preseason last year, let's say the Penn State and Oregon game are kind of a wash. Oregon in 2024 versus Penn State in 2023. Michigan doesn't have to play Penn State in 2023, but they do have to play Oregon. So let's say those two are wash. Let's look at Michigan's, kind of analyze Michigan's schedule in 2024 versus 23. Texas game. Those numbers would have gone up, in my opinion. It would have been, well over 250 and maybe 14 or 15, 14 and a half or something first downs allowed if they had to play Texas. But, the numbers were historically awesome last year. So, but if those numbers do go up a little bit, it's probably still okay. We don't have to go from historically amazing to just pedestrian. It can be something that's in between. And then let's be realistic. I think as most Michigan fans, Michigan's going to lose a game. Maybe they'll lose 2 games. Maybe realistically, Michigan's goal should try to get into the playoffs. Maybe make it into that Final Four. if they make it to the Final Four teams, then sky's the limit from there. But for now, make it to the playoffs. Okay, so I think somewhere between Ohio State's numbers and Alabama's numbers is what we are realistically looking at for 2024 for Michigan, especially when you look at the strength of their schedule. All right, so conclusions here. So, my analysis of the defense, I'd love it if you could kind of chime in as well. How big of a loss is Rod Moore? I would say it is much lower than if Quentin Johnson had left. So the answer is it is a big loss, but it's much lower than if Quentin Johnson had left. The weakest link is nickelback, middle linebacker, and the way our lads kind of looks at it, the field cornerback, free and the free safety sort of combination. So the way I would say is field cornerback is kind of the wide side. Free safety is the one that kind of roves around, following receivers. So, maybe kind of one side is okay, but the other side is not with respect to, or not as good, let's say, with respect to the secondary. So the strength is the boundary cornerback. So the boundary cornerback plays the short side, and typically they would do that alone. This is kind of our lads kind of definition when you look at that chart. And the strong safety is more of the run and tight end kind of stopper. So those positions are strength, and then also the weakest link. So if you kind of look at that, you see that the defensive backfield is kind of a mixed bag, so to speak. How close can Michigan come to matching the 2023 production? So I'm going to go ahead and just give you my guess. And maybe this is a little bit optimistic. In my view, Michigan should be able to split. In fact, I think basically Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon are all going to go 1-1 against the other two. Is Michigan going to lose Texas? That's hard to say, but I would say if you were to let me, you tell me to guess right now, I would say yes, they'd probably lose to Texas. So if they win every other game, that's 2 losses for the season, and it should put them into the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. So assuming that 247 yards allowed would turn into maybe 275 yards allowed, and 13.3 first downs per game might turn into 16 first downs per game. If Michigan did that, it would be more in line with maybe what an Ohio State is, and still kind of in the range of Ohio State / Alabama from last year. And that should be good enough to win, to have a 2-loss team. Let's put it that way. So that's what I'm realistically looking for with respect to this team. So if you could just tell me what you think you can take out of this, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if there are any nuances that you think we should add to this formula, would love to do this kind of as a crowdsourced kind of metric that helps make Michigan fans smarter. Also, hopefully this makes it more fun for you to really kind of follow the players, maybe even some of the players that don't have, I kind of refer to this term counting statistics. A lot of players don't have those counting statistics, but it's good to really know who are the starters, who are the backups, are the backups getting time, are they getting meaningful time? What are some aspects of sort of keeping this rolling for Michigan? And then when there is an injury, when there is a problem, how does, who's the next man up? How does that concept work? Again, if you could like and subscribe to this video, would really appreciate it. And I would love comments. I got a lot of comments on my first video when I talked about the potential 2-quarterback system. Would love to get comments here as well. Take care until the next video.